Well, hello everybody and welcome into the gardens for the April 19th update, kind of a look at what's going on. And I thought I'd show you really quickly how I'm kind of hoping to improve one of the little bunkers that we've got going for this year's companion planting situation. There's not a whole lot that's actively growing right now, but there are a few things that I found as the snow has receded that I thought I would share before, we get started trying to rebuild that bunker. So, yes, let's get off the tripod and take a look around, shall we? At the back of last year's fairly well-spaced pepper patch, fairly well mulched, we have a tale of two parsley. This is the one that I covered with the cloche. I'm not entirely sure if someone in the family has removed it or the wind has taken it away these last few days, but it basically stayed there all winter, kind of covered this up, and you know, looking at it, that is pretty brown. I'm pretty sure that is dead. Now if we pan over to where the other tomato was, because that one had a tomato by it and this one had a tomato by it, we see what kind of looks like it might just be another parsley that I had forgotten about entirely, so therefore it wasn't under one of those garden cloches, and it looks remarkably green. So I'm quite curious to see what's going to happen with that as things do start to warm up. Leaving all the pepper plants in here so that they can hopefully catch some sun, catch a little bit of heat, maybe transfer that in what's left of their root systems into the soil, and hopefully I can warm this up a little bit faster that way. I have no idea if that's a reasonable functioning theory or not, but it's what I'm going with this year. The remains of the corn patch here, definitely planted way too close together. Nothing really seems to be sprouting up in here yet of its own accord, but I did find a fully frozen corn cob. So the chickens were quite happy when I took off the outer layers that had gotten kind of nasty, opened it up and discovered a bunch of nice, well, frozen corn kernels. So broke that in half, tossed it in for them. The chickens had a heyday. Down over here we've got the failed strawberry patch that appears to be not so much of a failure as I had thought. And looking now, I kind of see another plant down here. Can you just barely see that through the grasses? When we start cleaning these things out, another month or so, I think we're going to be able to see that a lot better. The Chaos Garden, pretty good descriptive for it, really. Got a nice little pile of charcoal here. We're going to be using some of that today as we top up this here potato bunker garden with some of the chicken enhanced wood chips that have been in their coop all winter. The vast majority of their actual waste has been scooped out of it, and we have that as a second pile for proper composting. But I'm just looking for something to kind of fill that up, because this thing has never really been properly filled. I'm not sure how well it's coming up in the video, but you can kind of see the wicker, wattle, whatever you want to call it, fence work that Shocks did around the edges there. In theory, that's kind of where I'd like our so-called soil level to be. So yeah, today we're going to add to this, like I said, some of that charcoal, some of that chicken enhanced wood chips, and I don't know, maybe a little bit of the stuff from their actual waste pile, because it doesn't look like a little nitrogen would be a bad thing to break this down. So, to the chicken coop. So while I have an amazing resource at the bottom of that 3-pallet structure that these girls have been working on pretty hard, and it's probably a good 8 inches thick, 6 to 8 I would say, that's not what we're going after today. We're going after some slightly looser material that has more breaking down to go, and that needs to thaw before I can pull any of it out anyway. So here you can kind of see the heart and soul of my sawdust enhancing system, hard at work, ignoring me, but they have very much lifted the level of this floor over this past winter. And considering most of that is carbon and some of that is nitrogen, it seems to me like this is a pretty good fit. Like I said, I'm going to put some of their actual waste from the mountain of it out front into there as well. Yeah, and that's all still wood chips that I've dug up there. They're gonna have a great time scratching around in that. I'll leave the shovel because we'll be back for more of that in a minute. And let's take this out, dump it in that bunker, see how many more of those we need. Well, that's 2. Gonna need at least 2 more. All right, number 3. Kick that in a bit. Yeah, I'd say there's room for plenty more in there. All right, so here's number 4. And this time I brought the pitchfork. So I want to try and wiggle this in to some of those lower areas, but it kind of feels like most of that is still very much frozen. So we're just putting this on top for now, I guess. Stuffing it into the sides. And I guess for now, we're gonna say that 4 filled that to a much more workable level. Clearly I still need to cut these down, but I might actually get around to that this year. We'll see. So as we take a closer look here, I mean, we can clearly see this is mostly sawdust with little tiny bits of, we'll call it debris, mixed in. I am gonna need to help it break down a little bit more before the garden season really commences this year. And I do have a plan or 2 for that. So, you know, stick around, see what happens. Bit of a spoiler alert though, I will be using nitrogen enriched water from the chicken solids. Gonna let it soak in there, mix through, water this down nice and thoroughly. Hopefully we'll get a few good rains too. With a little bit of luck, that will pull our level down, and I might get to put another bucket or 2 in here before we actually get planting. I had planned on throwing in some of that charcoal today, but I don't know that I'm going to do that. Based on how frozen that felt down there, I'm guessing that pile of charcoal probably pretty frozen too, so we will skip that today. Although I do think off camera I might toss a couple of buckets onto where we're going to throw some carrots and tomatoes this year. So on the note of the carrots and the tomato project, I have been looking into my various companion gardening lists. I've got a few different things on the go. It's going to be really curious to see what goes with what when we get around to actually planting things in the soil this year. If we get around to planting things in the soil this year, the weather has been really, really weird. But I do have some tomatoes on the go, got a couple packs of carrots. Tried to get a pretty wide variety of things at the store this year, but they are all local seeds from a local vendor, and with a few exceptions in amongst my tomatoes and peppers, they're all new. So in theory, I shouldn't have any germination issues, and I should have a good productive garden this year. We're just gonna have to see whether or not that actually plays out. So on that note, I think I'm gonna wrap it up today. I wish you all a fantastic week ahead. I hope you find yourselves staying entertained, staying safe, and you know, like I always say, just take care of what the universe puts in front of you, and we'll be back again next week. All right, take care, everybody.